In the silent vastness of space, far from the bright stars of known galaxies, Captain Alex Hunter and his crew were on a routine patrol near a disputed border between two powerful star systems. Their sleek ship glided smoothly through the darkness, scanning the emptiness for any signs of trouble. Suddenly, the ship's sensors picked up a faint signal, a small, damaged vessel drifting helplessly. The ship was barely recognizable, scarred by deep scratches and missing panels, floating like a ghost in the void. Curiosity and duty pushed Alex to investigate. As they drew closer, the shape of the ship grew clearer. It was unlike anything they had seen before, with strange markings and an unfamiliar design that suggested it belonged to an alien civilization, long thought lost to history. The airlock was cracked, and a thin trail of smoke escaped into space. Inside, the crew found chaos. The corridors were empty except for signs of struggle-scorched walls, scattered equipment, and shattered glass. But in the dim light of the control room, they saw her, a young woman, barely conscious. Covered in grime and dust, her clothes torn and stained with what looked like years of hardship. Her eyes, however, shone with a quiet desperation that spoke louder than words. She was an alien, with skin tinted a soft blue and delicate, pointed ears that twitched as she slowly opened her eyes. She looked every bit a princess from a fairy tale, yet she was far from the elegant figure one would expect. She was the last of her kind, the heir to a fallen empire now reduced to ruins and betrayal. As she struggled to speak, her voice was weak but clear. She begged the humans to take her aboard their ship, not as a guest or ally, but as a servant, someone willing to serve and repay their kindness in any way. Captain Hunter was suspicious. Why would a princess, even one so broken, lower herself to this? What dangers had she faced that forced her into such a desperate plea? The crew debated quietly as they tended to her wounds and cleaned the dirt from her face. She told them her story in fragments, how her empire was betrayed from within, how she fled for her life, and how she had survived alone, hiding in the wreckage of her former glory. Her humility was striking, but so was the strength behind it. She promised loyalty and devotion, claiming that serving humans was the only chance she had left. Suspense hung thick in the air as Alex faced a choice: trust this mysterious alien, princess, or leave her to drift in the void, a relic of a broken world. The encounter was not just about saving a life. It was the start of something far greater, a connection that would change everything for both humans and aliens alike. As the damaged vessel was left behind, and the princess stepped onto the human ship, a new chapter began, a story of survival, hope, and unexpected alliances that no one on the ship could yet understand. Back aboard the human ship, the princess's arrival stirred the atmosphere like a sudden storm. The crew, a tight-knit group used to relying on each other, found themselves divided almost immediately. Some crew members eyed her with suspicion, unsure if she was a clever spy or worse, a dangerous threat hidden behind a fragile appearance. Whispers floated through the corridors. Questions hung in the air. Could they trust this alien who called herself a servant, yet held herself with a quiet dignity that refused to be broken? Others, however, saw beyond her disheveled exterior and broken pride. They recognized the value of what she represented, an opportunity to form new bonds with an ancient and mysterious civilization. The princess, for her part, found the tension unbearable. She had always been taught to command respect and loyalty, yet now she was expected to crawl and serve. Pride fought with necessity inside her, but she knew survival depended on showing her worth. She refused to be a burden and threw herself into helping the crew wherever she could. With careful hands and a sharp mind, she began to assist the engineers in repairing the ship's damaged systems. Her knowledge of alien technology, unfamiliar to the humans, proved invaluable. She pointed out flaws and suggested solutions that no one else had considered, quietly proving that her skills were as sharp as any seasoned crew members. Slowly, the crew's attitudes began to shift. Those who had doubted her found themselves turning to her for advice, watching as she worked, tirelessly without complaint or demand. Captain Alex Hunter watched this transformation with growing curiosity. He saw more than just the dirt and rags now. He saw a survivor who carried the weight of a lost world on her shoulders, but refused to collapse under it. Beneath the humility and exhaustion, He sensed a core of strength, quiet, unyielding, and full of potential. Yet, despite these signs of trust growing, the threat of the unknown still loomed heavily. There were moments when strange signals appeared. On their scanners, unidentified ships moving just beyond reach. No one could say for sure if these were allies searching for the princess or enemies hunting her down. This uncertainty kept the crew alert and tense, their nerves stretched thin as they tried to protect both the ship and their mysterious guest. The princess herself seemed haunted by these possibilities, often retreating to the ship's observation deck to stare silently into the blackness of space. Her thoughts a mystery even to Alex, her story shared in small pieces over quiet conversations. Revealed glimpses of the empire she had lost, vast worlds torn apart by betrayal, family shattered by greed, and a life uprooted forever. Yet she never once complained or demanded pity. Instead, she focused on the present, on earning her place among these strangers who had saved her from the void. Fluctuated between weakness and moments of surprising energy. The crew learned to rely on her insights, and slowly, suspicion gave way to respect. Still, there was an unspoken question hanging over them. What was her true purpose, and what dangers would come with her presence? Captain Hunter knew that. Accepting the princess aboard his ship was not just an act of mercy, it was a gamble with unknown stakes. But something about her, the way she carried herself despite everything, told him that this was a gamble worth taking. The fragile peace on the ship, the quiet hope growing in the princess's eyes, and the growing bond between human and alien promised that, whatever came next, they would face it together. But the darkness beyond the stars was not yet done with. Them and the coming days would test their trust, their courage, the limits of what it meant to be a family in the endless night of space. As days passed aboard the ship, the quiet moments between repairs and patrols became the time when the princess slowly revealed pieces of her past, fragments of a story dark and heavy with betrayal. One evening, as the ship hummed softly through the void, she sat across from Captain Alex Hunter in the small, dimly lit mess hall, her eyes distant but focused. She spoke with careful words about her once great empire, a shining constellation of worlds ruled by her family for centuries. But power had brought envy and treachery. The people she trusted most, the advisors, generals, even family, had turned against her in secret, conspiring with enemies she never suspected. The empire had been torn apart from within, and allies who had once promised protection vanished when she needed them the most. She was left to escape alone, hunted not only by foreign foes, but by assassins disguised as friends. Her fall had been a fight to survive, a desperate attempt to stay one step ahead of those who wanted her dead. Her voice faltered only once, revealing the deep fear that still haunted her, fear of spies hiding among the crew, or worse, enemies tracking the ship through the vast emptiness. Captain Hunter listened intently, understanding for the first time the gravity of the danger they faced. He gathered his senior officers to share the truth of their passenger, and the crew's unease grew into focused vigilance. They fortified the ship's defenses, ran drills, and set watches during the long nights, everyone prepared for an attack that might come without warning. Yet in the midst of this tension, the princess did not shrink away. Instead, she stepped forward, showing a side of herself that no one had yet seen, a leader hardened by loss and sharpened by years of hiding in the shadows. Her knowledge of combat and strategy surprised the crew. She taught them techniques from her world, ways to move silently, strike swiftly, and defend without hesitation. When the crew sparred or practiced drills, she joined without complaint, pushing herself beyond exhaustion to prove her dedication. Her confidence grew, and with it, the respect of the humans who had once doubted her. One tense night, the warning alarms shattered the silence. Sensors picked up a fleet of unidentified ships closing fast, shapes warped by the darkness but unmistakably hostile. The princess moved quickly, coordinating with Alex and the crew to deploy defenses and plan counterattacks. She directed the placement of shields and suggested ambush points. Based on knowledge of enemy tactics that only a fallen royal with a lifetime of battle experience could possess, the crew followed her lead, a growing trust binding them in a shared purpose. When the enemy finally struck, The ship shuddered under the fire of distant cannons and close-range fighters. The princess fought alongside the humans, using her agility and skill to protect vital stations and repel boarders. Her presence inspired the crew, who fought harder knowing they were defending someone who had become more than a stranger in Nietzsche, was their comrade and symbol of hope. The battle was fierce, but brief. The attackers retreated, damaged and frustrated, leaving the human ship battered but victorious. In the quiet aftermath, the crew gathered around the princess, no longer seeing her as a broken alien pleading for help, but as a warrior who had earned her place among them. The shadows of her past still lingered, but with each victory, she grew stronger. Captain Hunter realized that this alliance, born of desperation and courage, was changing them all. They were no longer just survivors, but a team united by trust, ready to face the dangers lurking in the darkness together. The past was never far behind, but the future, uncertain and full of peril, held a promise of something greater, forged in the fires of loyalty and shared struggle across the stars. The tension aboard the ship was almost unbearable as hostile forces closed in once again, their presence casting a shadow over every moment and breath. Captain Alex Hunter stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the radar as the warning lights flashed red, signaling the arrival of enemy fighters fast and relentless. Beside him, the princess, no longer the frightened and disheveled figure they had first found, moved with steady purpose, her calm strength a beacon amid the chaos. The crew, once uncertain of her place, now watched in silent admiration as she coordinated with Alex, their voices clear and commands sharp as they prepared for the inevitable attack. The enemy was clever, striking with a combination of brute force and cunning tactics designed to overwhelm. But the humans were ready, and with the princess's knowledge of alien warfare guiding them, they began to counter with precision and creativity. Alex directed the ship's maneuvers, relying on his crew's skill and instinct, while the princess identified weaknesses in the enemy's patterns, calling out strategies that combined her world's ancient combat wisdom with human ingenuity. Together, they formed a partnership that neither had expected but both embraced. The battle that followed was fierce and unrelenting, a dance of destruction and survival as lasers flashed through the darkness, and the ship shook under heavy fire. The princess moved swiftly between stations, assisting the engineers in rallying. The crew, her determination infectious, where the humans relied on technology and teamwork. She brought sharp instincts and a warrior spirit honed through hardship. Their teamwork turned the tide when a surprise tactic from the princess caught the enemy off guard, a feint followed by a rapid counterattack. It crippled the lead fighter and broke the enemy's formation. The crew cheered, their hope renewed. By this unexpected victory, as the battle drew to a close, the princess and Alex found themselves standing side by side on the bridge, their faces marked with exhaustion but lit with resolve. The crew no longer saw her as a servant but as an equal, a leader whose courage and skills had saved them all. A deep bond had formed between human and alien, one built on trust, respect, and shared struggle. This unity bridged their worlds, promising a future where their differences could be strengths rather than obstacles. In the quiet after the fight, as the ship floated through space, battered but undefeated, Alex and the princess looked out at the stars with new understanding. They had risen together, proving that even in the darkest times, hope and courage could forge powerful alliances. The story of a fallen princess and a human captain was no longer one of despair, but of strength, friendship, and a future waiting to be shaped by their combined will. The battle had finally ended. The once threatening enemy forces, now scattered and defeated, drifting away into the vast darkness of space where they could no longer harm the ship or its crew. The air aboard the human vessel was heavy with relief, exhaustion, and the quiet hum of machines working to repair the scars left by the fight. Captain Alex Hunter stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars through the wide viewports, his thoughts swirling with everything that had happened since they first found the alien princess weak, dirty, and pleading for help. But now she stood beside him, no longer a fragile stranger begging for mercy, but a strong and confident leader ready to face whatever the future held. Alex knew that the time had come to offer her more than just shelter or a place to hide.
Ow.
With the whole crew watching, he stepped forward and extended an invitation that changed everything. He offered her a permanent place on the ship, not as a servant or a guest, but as a partner and leader, someone who could stand beside humanity as they reached out into the stars. The princess's eyes shone with a mixture of surprise, gratitude, and hope as she accepted. In that moment, the long journey from despair to strength was clear to everyone. Together, they began to plan what would come next. The princess shared stories of her fallen empire, how it had once been a beacon of culture, science, and peace across many worlds. Her people had been powerful, but internal betrayal and political deception had brought ruin. Now, with the support of this human crew, she dreamed not just of survival, but of rebuilding. Her knowledge of ancient technology and diplomacy, combined with human courage and innovation, promised a future unlike any before. The crew worked side by side with her, blending skills and ideas from two very different worlds. Engineers studied the alien blueprints she provided, creating new designs that merged human engineering with alien technology, making their ships stronger and faster. The princess taught the crew about her people's ways, sharing traditions and lessons that helped everyone understand her culture and history better. Trust and friendship grew in small moments, shared meals, laughter in the corridors, and quiet conversations beneath the stars. The princess, once filled with hopelessness and fear, now stood tall, her spirit rekindled by the warmth and acceptance of this new family. The bond between her and Alex deepened, rooted in mutual respect and the shared burden of leadership. They planned missions to find survivors, allies, and resources, determined to restore not only her empire, but to build bridges between species and create lasting peace. But they knew the path ahead was not easy. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, and enemies lurked in shadows, waiting for chances to strike. Still, hope burned brighter than fear. Humanity had gained a powerful ally, one who had taught them that strength was not just in weapons or technology, but in courage, loyalty, and the willingness to stand together. And the princess had found something she thought lost forever: family, a purpose, and a future among the stars. As the ship sailed onward through the endless night, carrying its new leaders toward an uncertain but promising dawn, the story of a broken alien princess and a human captain became a legend of new beginnings, proving that even in the darkest times light could be found in unexpected places, and the bonds formed in struggle could change the course of history forever.